On today's episode of Beyond the Frequency, we're talking to Jenna Tuttle, a psychic medium and an expert at the emotion code. What's the emotion code? Let's find out. Think about your emotions. What if they were more than just feelings? What if they carried energy that shaped our life in ways you didn't realize? Today, we'll explore the emotion code, a healing method that works with this hidden energy to clear emotional blocks and bring balance. My guest today is someone who knows this practice inside and out. But how much of our emotional baggage is really holding us back? And what could change if we learn how to release it? It's my pleasure to introduce my guest, Jenna Tuttle, a psychic medium and expert in the emotion code, here to help us explore what lies beyond the frequency of our emotions. Hey, Jenna, how are you?
Hi, Cesar. Well, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast. You're a busy woman, but this is very
I'm
helpful.
so happy to. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4 right now.
Look at that.
12:34.
See, I love it.
Believe in the magic of numbers.
I love numerology. But yeah, if you can go ahead and tell the audience, the listeners and the viewers a little bit about who you are and where they can find you.
Yeah. My name is Jenna Tuttle. I find this really funny. The garbage man is going by outside, picking up, dumping out all the garbage, just like we were talking about emotions, getting rid of all the gunk, getting rid of all the crap. Just felt really timely. So funny. Universe, you're so funny. Yes, I am Jenna Tuttle, and you can find me at jennatuttle.com. I'm pretty straight and to the point. It's just me. Like Cesar was saying, I'm certified in the emotion code. I'm a psychic medium, and I channel artwork. So I do custom artwork as well. And my Instagram is Jenna Tuttle Medium, as well as on Facebook. So that's how you can find me.
Awesome. I appreciate that, Jenna. So I guess the first question that I'm going to ask you is before you started doing this, who were you?
Yeah, man, aren't we all so layered? Yeah, so my background is actually in the design world. So professionally, I went to school for interior design and almost went to school for art, but chickened out. So I've always art and artwork, painting, drawing, sketching has always been a part of my life. And it just got translated into interiors. So I went to school for interior design. I graduated, worked at an architecture firm for a while, and then got into product. So for the last 12 years, I've been doing fabric, textures, wall coverings for a textile and wall covering company. So I work and help with showcasing those types of products. Also, I'm a certified yoga teacher. I used to teach yoga. I haven't in a while. Love all things movement. Went through a crazy infertility journey and have 2 beautiful children who that shape the world and give me all the light. My husband I met in college, and we met in architecture history class. There's a whole story there. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me and just who I am outside of being all these other crazy energy and mediumship stuff.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Do your friends and your family know that you have this ability? Did this just happen? Like, when did you actually have an inclination that you had this ability? And then my follow-up question to that would be, does your family and your friends utilize that? Like, do they take the opportunity, like, hey, do a reading for me? Things like.
Yeah. No, actually, they do not. I've never read anyone in my family. I lost my younger brother to congenital heart failure when I was a little over 3 years old, and was told that I walked right up to the casket, kissed him on the forehead. I have vivid memories of him and I. And when he passed, I blocked out a lot of that time in my life because it was so hard for my parents and the whole situation. And I genuinely believe that that was a little bit of the start of how all this happened. But I also think there's a lot to do with social conditioning, life experience that blocks you from this kind of stuff. I always have had an inkling that I knew things just came to me easily. But I kind of stuffed a lot of that down through the years with lots of different things that we all do, vices and friends and trying to fit in and all the things. So I don't think I knew or was able to know, or it was the right time for me to really know until I got older. But I've always been fascinated by it. I remember I had a friend when I lived in Colorado. Her mother passed away, and we would talk about how we would write notes and talk to my brother and talk to her mom and send balloons in the air with notes. And it just, like, I always felt like, and I've always had vivid dreams. When my grandmother passed away, I had such vivid dreams, and I could feel her. I could feel her in certain situations and objects. And I just always, there was always something, but I just never, it was kind of like, okay, well, that's cool. Like, everybody feels this way. It's not, anything crazy. But I lost my sense of taste and smell from COVID. And through that experience, I think really kickstarted this, to be honest. I could not smell or taste, and it really changed a lot for me. And it was really difficult. And I went through a really, really difficult stage with other things and infertility. And I had a major loss in between my kids. And there was a lot that happened there that shaped how I was feeling. And I just started to get these pulls. And I had a human design reading with a friend that I started to work with, and started learning more about my gifts. Human design is, it's a little bit different. It's something that I'm not specifically trained into reading people's charts, but it's a modality that I use on a regular basis. And it is basically a chart that's generated like a self-knowledge system that just kind of teaches you about yourself. So they combine Chinese Qing, Kabbalah, Vedic philosophy, astrology, modern physics, all kind of stuff, just so that you can have this body graph chart that tells you, a chart that helps you with your life strategy, your decision-making skills, and things like that. And I really learned a lot of myself. And a lot of that early loss in my life was showing up in my chart, which I thought was so interesting. So it was more of a confirmation for me. But some of my biggest gifts were centered around inner knowing, inner vision, and things like that. So I just started to get a little more curious, and felt a pull to a specific woman who did the emotion code on me and then did a reading. And I just started to clear emotions, and things started to get more and more clear, and weird things started happening to me in my dreams, visions, downloads. And I decided to I just got this pull. So I signed up for, and there's really no other way around it other than I just felt pulled to this woman. She was a random woman, and I sent her an email. I believe my exact email said, "This sounds crazy, but I just feel like I'm needing to talk to you." And she was like, "Nope, doesn't sound crazy at all. Let's talk." And then the same thing happened when I signed up for the mediumship workshop. It was like a beginner's mediumship workshop. And I signed up, and she was like, "Okay, we're all going to just start reading each other." And I was like, "Excuse me, what?" And literally she was like, "Okay, close your eyes 10 minutes." And I read two women, and all of this information just started coming to me. And I think our instructions were just to write everything down and then relay the information to said person. And they were both just, it just kept pouring into me, like, just with such ease. And I was like, what? And I'm like, you're probably not going to think anything about this, but like, and I think the one thing that came to me was like the color purple and dancing. And the girl was like, "Oh yeah. And it's like everything I was saying, they were like, "Oh yeah. And yeah, so then from there, I just kind of was like, okay, let's see what we can do with this. And so that's how that started.
And I love that. So, you ended up feeling that you had this innate pull to do this, and then you went to a local medium or something, and in order to help guide you. Like, did you just?
So she wasn't a local. Neither of them were local. The girl that I did the emotion code and the psychic mediumship reading with, I did worked with her to clear my own stuff that had nothing to do with mediumship at all. She was just helping me work through my own internal stuff that I had going on, including migraines, anxiety, different things that were going on in my life was what I would start to work on with her around a lot of the events that had happened to me. And through the work with her, I decided to get certified in the emotion code. So I was getting certified while simultaneously working for her. And then during that time that I was working with her, I got the pull to start exploring the mediumship
Gotcha.
after I finished the emotion code and started doing it regularly. So it all
Gotcha.
kind of happened. It
Right.
wasn't and it hasn't been a seamless transition. It's been kind of a slow unfolding, almost like a peeling of an onion that I discovered all of this stuff. So it was definitely not a linear path, nor does it continue to be as much as I would like it to be with my controlling abilities. But
Yeah.
it's definitely been a slow unfolding.
I hear you. I'm sure it's, you're discovering yourself even more than what you thought. that you knew about
Oh,
yourself,
yeah.
because I'm sure that's not an easy journey, you know? And then on top of that, you're also learning about other people, you know, and taking in their
Mhm.
emotions and things like that. So I guess, so for our listeners and our viewers, they probably want to know, what is the emotion code? You know, if you can just tell it,
Yeah.
what is it, and what's the experience like for someone new at it?
Sure. Yeah, so the emotion code is an energy healing modality that you take and release trapped emotions that are stuck in the body. And to really just dumb it down is a trapped emotion is something that happens when an emotion is so completely overwhelming that it gets stuck in the body. Like imagine you're in a car accident and you hit someone and all of a sudden you're jolted and you're shocked by the entire thing. But then everything, you look around, everything's okay, everybody's calm, everybody's okay. And you have to get out of the car and you have to go deal with insurance, you have to deal with all this stuff, and you have to just stuff down that emotion that didn't work its way through your body. You couldn't really fully process it because you had to go back through regular life. Or think about, I think about myself when I had a ruptured ectopic pregnancy in between my babies. I was at the doctor. They told me I needed to rush to the emergency room. I tried calling everyone in my family and nobody picked up. And I was completely shocked and a complete mess. But I had to go home, pack a bag, get myself together, get in the car, and shove all of that down and just go. And think about how many times this happens in a day. Even any simple thing. It could be something as silly as, somebody said something harmful to you and you just took it like, "Oh, that really hurt me," but you just kind of forget about it and move on. So it's
Yeah.
anything like that that gets stuck in your body. And and what about the emotion code that I love is, rather than traditional therapy where you would talk through an experience like this and go to somebody and say, "Okay, I remember I was in the car, this and that." Basically, what I do as an emotion code practitioner is I tap into your energy field. I find 5 to 10 trapped emotions and I release them one by one. And I can tell you when they were in terms of your age, if they were yours, or if they were inherited by somebody in your family. So these can be inherited the same way hair color could be inherited. So if somebody has, their father had a trapped emotion from a car accident of shock when they were 40 years old or whatever it was, you could have inherited that. So when I clear the trapped emotion for you, it also clears for yourself. So that would be the inherited one, that option. So those are just a couple of the different types that you can release. But to go backwards a little bit, our entire body is made of energy, 90% energy. So these are just like balls of energy that get stuck in the body that could be causing inflammation, could be causing pain, could be causing anything, really. It could be causing anxiety. And the other thing that they can do is escalate the feeling. So if you had a feeling of trapped emotion, anxiety from when you were 4 years old, from a soccer game that you felt like you were getting anxiety about getting a goal. And as you get older, different moments of anxiety will be triggered from that trapped emotion that's stuck in your body. So by releasing these, we're clearing out space for you to feel less triggered in situations in terms of anxiety. And it's just a process of letting go. I almost think of it like a surgery. Like you have stuff that's just stuck in your body. Think about taking a shower. I try to think to taking a shower. Like you just have all that gunk all over you and you take a shower and you just feel better. And it's like a slow unfolding, like I was saying, it's peeling an onion and getting rid of these things to help you kind of feel a little bit more relief in your body. Like also another example is I had these chronic migraines. I mean, I was seeing flashing lights. I had a whole lineup of pills that I was taking. And through working with someone through the emotion code, I believe she released several that had to do with the headaches. But there was one particular that was inherited from several generations past of longing. The trapped emotion was longing. And once we released that trapped emotion, I never don't get a headache again, but I threw away all of my pills. I've been able to manage them in a whole different world, and I've never looked back. And it was just one emotion that we found. And it's just, and I believe just that it could be one of the future of helping with different things in medicine and naturopath medicine. It's the same thing as, I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be, But I also think so much of our problems are emotions. And all of this stuff is stuck in your subconscious mind. So we have our conscious mind and then our subconscious mind, which drives everything, which drives all of our emotions, which are things that are just there. And this is a way of me tapping into that part of you that you can release it from the subconscious mind rather than the conscious mind because you realize that it's not even something that you're aware of.
Right, right. No, I first of all, I appreciate that explanation because as you were saying that, it made me think like when you said your energy gets stuck and in your body, it reminds me of like after you, let's say like matter of fact, this past weekend we did a bunch of landscaping in our yard, so I was super sore. I went to go get a massage, and there were a lot of knots in there. So
Yes.
these, I would compare these energy balls, like you were saying, that kind of stuck in your energy body, like the physical knots on your physical body, kind of, you
Mhm.
know, unloosening them and letting them fly, just go away. Is that a pretty good comparison?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely similar.
I love that, and I'm wondering if do you ever get surprised during any of your sessions? Like, have you ever uncovered something unexpected, completely that shifted the direction of the healing that you're doing for a client?
I get surprised by them all the time. I released one for someone who it was an inherited trapped emotion from, I think 3 generations. And after I released it, she went, "Oh, yeah, he was in the Holocaust. That makes perfect sense." And it was, like I find things like that, that just these synchronicities. Or I released one from a woman and she was like, "Oh, yeah, that was for my wedding. That was the year I got married," and like the nervousness and that. And I just find that people almost immediately can feel at the age that it was that the emotion was released, that there was something in their life that happened at that time. Not always, because sometimes, like I said, it could be something as simple as you slipped in the kitchen and you totally forgot about that, but that can impact you later in life.
Yeah, I just so the viewers and the listeners know, prior to this podcast, Jenna was very kind to do a reading for me. Not only did she do a medium reading for me, but she also did a emotional code session with me to release some energies. And I gotta tell you, like, and I'm still processing it. I'm still trying to like figure out what just happened because I told Jenna earlier that I've had people read my palms. I've done tarot card readings. I'm sure I've done other stuff. I don't know, but I've never had anybody actually look into what I would think is my true self, my energy being. We always deal with the physical. We, or we go to a doctor because physically we're hurt somewhere. We need him to fix that. We go to somebody who's telling us that something's wrong with our head. Could be chemical imbalance, whatever the case is. But like you said earlier, Jenna, we have things trapped in our energy body. Who's the doctor? Who do we go to, to release that, to fix that, to do the psychic surgery, if you will? And it's people like yourself. And I didn't know people like yourself existed. This is also one of those great things of why I'm so happy that you're on this podcast, because as people listen to this and see this, they're like, wow, there's, what, I've been dealing with so much and no one can actually help me, but now I know that there's people out there that do these healing sessions with these emotional codes. Maybe I'll try this out, see if that's the solution. So it's a beautiful thing that you exist. It's a beautiful thing that you have this gift, and it's a beautiful thing that anybody who's listening today, if you need this, if you feel like you've tried everything, you haven't tried everything yet.
That's
Try.
it. I think that's what it is for me. I tried all the podcasts. I listened to all the things. I went to all the therapists. I tried all of the massages. I tried all the stuff. And this was the only thing that and what I love about it is it's so simple and effective. All I have to do is get in there, find the emotions and release them. And it's kind of a no nonsense thing. And to your point about the body and the physical body, I wanted to make a note is that all of these emotions are associated with parts of the body. So, for example, anger, bitterness, guilt, hatred, resentment are all in the liver or the gallbladder. So, think about an alcoholic. where does all of that stuff get stuck?
Yeah.
Bam, in their liver. And it's also interesting because part of what drove me really from a health standpoint to continue to process this was I have a long line of cancer in family, and I want to be a cycle breaker. The more I can do to help clear that stuff that could be stuck, to help move us forward and break that cycle from inheriting that, the better. Because I do genuinely feel like this releasing this emotional baggage can help clear out physical misalignments in the body. Because I've seen it. I mean, I saw it happen. My husband actually was really stuffed up before a trip, and we were going to just do a session, and I released some emotions, and he was like, it helped relieve his sinuses a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying I completely solved it, but there was some stuff going on in his head about the trip and about a lot of stress and things going on. And I figured it can't hurt. And he found some immediate relief and was able to go on the trip and felt a lot better. So, I mean, it's something that can be as immediate as that. So it's just kind of wild to watch it. And it just, every time I doubt myself, I do another session and I'm like, oh, I'm reminded of how quick and effective this can be, both mentally and physically.
Absolutely. Getting your mind right also helps get your body right, get him aligned, things like that. So, and I remember, you're mentioning also that not only does that trap emotion get released from you, but it also gets released from, if it's inherited, it gets released from that other person as well. So if you're doing a session with somebody like yourself, and you could be not only helping yourself out, but you're also helping out your mother, your father, your grandparents, your kids, things like that. I don't know if I mentioned this already in the podcast. You did a session with me earlier, and I forgot which there was an emotion that apparently my youngest 13-year-old has inherited from me. And when you mentioned that, because I'm thinking it's all just kind of me, right? But when you mentioned that, I was like, wow, that's, it hits you a different way, because you're like, the last thing you want to do is pass on any negative emotions to your children, especially with them being unaware of it and having them deal with it, throughout their life, not knowing, like, is it me? Jenna also was kind enough to take notes for me as well, so I can kind of better process some of the things that she has released. I'm able to now navigate with that information, because that's what this is. This is just information here that will allow me to think a little bit different about things, address the people or address the things that are happening in my life a different way, So again, I
And yeah,
think,
that's not to make anyone feel bad that your kids inherited it. Believe me, we all give our kids stuff we don't want to give them. But all it is doing is releasing any of that or any residual stuff that they could have had. And also, if you inherited it from your father and you released it for you and him. So it goes along the line the entire way. I mean, and the goal is just to make everybody feel a little bit lighter, lift everybody up a little bit higher, and kind of creating that clean slate so that they don't have that. But yeah, the first time the woman did it for me and told me that, when my kids got them, it really does. It hits your heart a different way. It's just, wow. Yeah, that makes your heart ache.
yeah, it does. I wonder, for those that are more curious and those that are like, don't believe in much of anything, like those skeptic people, what is there a way that you can kind of explain what is it that you see, or where does your mind go when you do an emotion code session with somebody? Are you present? Are you kind of faded away? Like, are you seeing orbs? Can you talk
Oh yeah.
about that?
Yeah, believe me. And I was such a skeptic too. I was just like, okay. When I first did my first session, I was like, yeah, I'll give this. I mean, again, I told you I felt that pull. I was like, all right, I'm going to do this because I'm being told to do it. And when she released the first emotion for me, I was like, whoa, something just happened to my body. And after the session, I actually think I literally fell asleep right after the session because I was so tired. It hits differently for everybody. And I felt different. in my body. I mean, I felt this eerie sense of almost like this high calm feeling. And I just knew, okay, I need more of this. I need to get more of this out. Something just happened to me that changed me. But believe me, and my husband, same, like very skeptical. Like it took a little, I mean, and I like to be invited. I would never, ever force this on anybody or tell somebody, I'm going to do this for you. People come to me when they're ready. I believe that you have to be ready and willing to do this work and try it out. But I do think that it sounds crazy, but all I'm doing is muscle testing myself as a proxy. So I'm basically acting as you, and I'm tapping into your energy field and using muscle testing to ask your subconscious what trapped emotions we can release on a specific problem. So say today we were doing an emotion code session on headaches. I would say, Cesar, I'm going to connect to your energy field and I'm going to ask if there is any trapped emotions that are causing you chronic headaches. And I would then go through one by one and release, say I found one of rejection from age 13, and I would release that using my governing meridian. And then I would go down the line one by one for all 10. I can release up to 10 at a time. We can't do any more than that. Another question I get asked is, well, can I just release like 100 of them, like get all this shit out of there so I don't have to worry about this anymore? No, you cannot, because think about if you were in a car accident and that jolt and that shock, imagine feeling that 100 times. You would spontaneously combust. You couldn't possibly. It's too much at once, which is why. And sometimes, actually, this has happened before. I've done an emotion session, code session on somebody, and it tells me to stop at 8 because your body's like, that's enough today. That's all I can handle. And also to go back to what we were talking about with children, when I've done it on my children, I've had to stop around 5 or 6 sometimes, because this can be done on children as well. But I do find that sometimes it's the parents that need the work for the kids about the kids' issue, but it could be both. Did a session on a baby who had colic, and she told me in a couple of days that she was significantly less uncomfortable. So I've seen immediate results with kids, especially because they haven't lived as many years. They haven't accumulated as much stuff as us. So it's pretty fascinating. Also animals. I've done work with animals too. You can do this on animals. So it's pretty wild. But I mean, all I'm doing is tapping into that subconscious. Think about your subconscious mind as the driver. When you're driving your car and you drive that same route to work every day or to the store and you don't even think about it and you just go, and then you're like, oh crap, there's actually an accident. I should have gone the back way. But your mind just took you the same way that you always go. So it's like that. It's like this subconscious reprogramming where you're taking out stuff in the subconscious that's just causing you to feel certain things more than you need.
Yeah.
To go back to, because I know there's a lot of skeptics, and just to get all scientific and geeky, I mean, when you look under the skin at the atom, like we're just 99.999 empty space, and it's just energy. So we're just mostly made of energy, and everything is energy. So, I mean, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotion, all of it, it's just all energy. And think about the energy in a room. When you walk into a room and you can tell if somebody is really happy or if somebody is in a bad mood. And let me tell you, when I'm in a bad mood, everyone in my house is in a bad mood. So I have to work on myself. I mean, I see it. I see it in my kids. They, if mommy's stressed, everyone's stressed. And we've all seen it. So it's just interesting when you think about it that way, when you really, really kind of dumb it down. But these can, I mean, in terms of size, these can be anywhere from the size of a tennis ball to a cantaloupe. It really depends on the emotion and the situation and what was going on at said specific time.
Can you see the size of the energy ball?
No, I don't see anything like that as I do it. I just find usually when I'm tapping into your energy, and that's where the mediumship comes in, when I'm releasing certain emotions, I tend to take on the feeling. Like during your session, I could feel a twinge in my head, or I tapped into a woman and I was like, ooh, you are running hot today. Are you outside? Like I could feel the heat in her body and feel almost the power. Like I did a session on a specific woman, a CEO, and she's a very strong, confident woman. And I almost I feel that when I tap into her energy. And I did one on someone who was pregnant. She was definitely feeling tired. And as soon as I tapped into her energy, I was like, oh, let's get rid of some baggage for you today. I can just take on that feeling as I tap into the subconscious, which doesn't happen for everybody. So, I mean, but that's what happens for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I noticed, have you ever had any residual energy feeling after dealing with a client, or is it once you disconnect, you're disconnected? Is that
Yeah, it's interesting. I had to learn that I really have to make sure I disconnect, because there was actually stories in my training about how people forgot to disconnect and they were feeling like, not right the next day. I think there was a story about a woman that did a cat or something and she forgot to disconnect and she was feeling like something
scratchy?
funny. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was like, "Well, I probably should make sure I get in there and really disconnect." So I'm really mindful of that. And I also do find doing this work, I'm very mindful of coming down at the end of the day to end the day and to kind of bookend the day with a hot shower before bed or just a meditation that helps keep me grounded, a chakra clearing meditation or something like that, to make sure that I am just back to my baseline. Because yeah, it does. I mean, you have to be careful, but I have all the tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to like, again, I don't think there's a local place where you just go and if you want an emotion code session done, you can't just go. I mean, you guys, outside of knowing that you exist and we have your contact information, I mean, are there a lot of emotion code readers, if that's what you call them, out in the world?
Yeah, yeah, they're called emotion code practitioners. So, yeah, it's a certification, and there's tons all over the world that do it. And he has different trainings that you can do on the website. It's Discover Healing, Dr. Bradley Nelson. There's a book on it that you can try and practice yourself and do it for yourself. And yeah, I've done them on myself. And I don't love doing it on myself because it just doesn't feel as effective, but I can and I have. It's just as effective though. I just don't love doing it on myself personally. But yeah, no, there's tons around the world, and most of them will do it virtually because the muscle testing that I do is proxy. So tap into your subconscious mind through the muscle testing. But if someone was and I've done them in person too, but Dr. Bradley does all different types. I think you kind of have to almost find your niche on what works for you, because there's different type of muscle testing you can learn. There's different type of in-person versus proxy type person. Like when I tap into a child, for example, I do a child session. I'm not physically with the child or on the phone with the child, obviously. So I did the session and sent the information and the notes to the parent afterwards. So it just depends on the situation too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's lots of us out there.
Wow. And it's one of those things, it's like you don't know until you know. So like, for example, by just being introducing the audience to you, now they're going to start hearing more about it. It's going to be on their feeds, on their social media,
Yeah.
and things like that, and hopefully somebody that's listening to today is looking for somebody like yourself, professional that can help them out, tapping into their emotional energy and release some trapped feelings and things like that. So I'm happy for everybody. I'm still processing it. It was so cool because, as you mentioned to me going into it, just come in there with no expectations, just relax, I was a little bit nervous. I'll tell you that. I was a little bit nervous because I was just like, am I going to feel like a jolt of sorts? And some kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
am I going to start levitating? Are you going to start levitating? Like, and yeah, so it was a little bit like, are there going to be entities in my room?
Yeah. Yeah.
All these different people, because some people may be looking for stuff like this, but they're like, I don't want any energies in my in my room and stuff. So
I
that
get it.
doesn't
Yeah.
happen, right? That stays completely like,
No, no. I mean, and that's what I love about this, because I'm very much a no nonsense minimalist. Like, let's just get it done the most quick and effective way possible, which is why I think therapy always, I mean, believe me, I'm a believer in whatever works for you, you should do. But what it makes it so different from therapy or from any type of other modality I've tried is this is just so okay, we find the emotions, we release them. You can do with the information whatever you need and move on. I just find it like let's just get the splinter out instead of digging around with it to find out. But I mean, everybody's different. Every session's different. Sometimes I'll release an emotion and we really need to talk, and somebody wants to talk it through. I mean, I remember releasing a trapped emotion from a specific age and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember exactly what was going on at that point. And you just really have to use that time to process it And I also found, and it's an experimental thing too, I found that I process better if I'm walking during a session. So when I do a session with my person, she calls me and she releases the emotions as I'm walking, because I find that as I'm walking, I can move it through me better. So it's just, I mean, this is all just, we're all just out there trying out to see what works the best for us. And I think that's what this all comes down to, is making it easy and effective for you to come back to your true self. That's what we're all trying to do with all of this, is to release this stuff so that you can, what we were talking about with you, I mean, to be able to get back to your own intuition and to trust yourself without all of these energies clouding you and making you have all these things that could hold you back in different areas of your life. So we're just trying to find more of a baseline blueprint for where you're supposed to be and find yourself without all the other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, with in this time, as everybody here is aware, that there's so much chaos, right? There's so much
Mhm.
confusion. Everybody, there's people that have been following religions for years that one day they're just like, it's not for me anymore. So like, where do I
Mhm.
go to now? You know, there's people gathering so much new information and they don't know how to absorb all this stuff. And it's causing a lot of clutter and congestion in their energy, right? In their mind. So, but yeah, this is just something new that, well, not new for you, but for those that are listening that never heard of this,
Mhm.
you know, it's just like when you're being when you're told, hey, look at this new car that you never seen before, and then for that entire week you keep seeing this like the same car, and you're like, wow, it's because we're now tuning in to something new
Mhm.
idea. So everybody, you're welcome. You know, this is
Yeah, I mean,
something.
it just really is. It's a new idea. I've just seen such success with it. I mean, I would never, I'm the type of person that I go all in when I believe in something and when something feels right. And it takes, it's just one of those things that I just, like I said, when you've tried everything else and you've exhausted everything, just think of the thing that's holding you back right now, and let's clear some emotions around it. And
Exactly.
that's what I try to say. If someone's new to this and they don't even know, and then other people will come and say, like, well, I have so many things. Like, how the heck am I going to know what to work on? Like, I have headaches. I also have anxiety. I also have this. I also have that. Your body will know what it needs to work on, because a lot of times the things that we think are what we need to work on are as a cause and effect of something else that we need to clear first, that has something to do with, that specific problem. Like the trapped emotion of longing, like longing and longing, longing, had to do with headaches, but who knew? I mean, it's, you don't even realize the stuff that could be blocking you on a daily basis that just helps you get you back to baseline.
Yeah,
So I just
absolutely.
find the more tools and simpler we can make things. I mean, my whole mantra for this year was simplify. Like the more I can simplify my life and make things easier, not harder, work smarter, not harder, the better.
Yeah. I like one thing that I do appreciate about you, Jenna, is that you do seem like a very grounded person, you know?
Oh, thank
So you're
you.
not
It's a
really,
huge compliment.
I mean, yeah, you're
Yeah,
not,
I mean, because I think I like to take the simple, effective part of the woo-woo, right? Like this stuff is all kind of crazy. Like that's, she's a psychic medium, she does this. But it's really just finding simple and effective tools that can help you in your life and help you relieve you of physical and mental discomfort, is really what it comes down to. And that's just what I'm looking to do, is to make things easier, simpler, lighter, more free to make decisions. I mean, I've seen myself, I mean, this has impacted my, when I do design work with fabrics, like I find myself being less indecisive and crazy about, like, oh, should I pack this? Should I bring these fabrics? Should I pick these colors? I can feel myself being like, okay, nope, this makes sense. I'm not second guessing myself. So I know a lot of us suffer with just chronic indecision. Am I making the right choice? Am I doing the right thing? By clearing these emotions, it helps clear that space for you to be like, oh, wait, actually, I already do know what I need to do. I don't need to get into my head about it. I can just do it and make things more effective.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Jenna, in respect for your time, I know you're limited, so I appreciate it. Let me just wrap this up
Yeah.
by asking you a couple of questions that I ask all my guests and get your
Yeah.
thoughts on it. So I'm gonna ask you three questions. So
Sure.
the first one is, if you could send a message to humanity that everyone would hear, what would it be?
Ooh, that's juicy. My immediate thought was think less and do more, but I don't think it's about doing more. I think it's about getting out of your head and into your heart.
Yeah, I like that. I
Let
like
the
that.
heart lead you. It's
Let
never
the
going to
heart.
go wrong.
I love it. Okay. What is one mystery of the universe that you wish you could solve?
What is it all for? I know that's a really loaded question, but
What
what
do
are
you
we
think?
moving towards?
Yeah, it's all for.
I want to think for the higher good, for raising us all up. But I think it's all about us lifting each other up and continuing to go on this evolutionary journey together, all of us pushing forward and evolving and changing. I mean, we know every generation, every decade, there's a new wave of things that are starting to happen out there. And I just love to see the progress. And I feel like if we can all get in our lane where we're supposed to be, and the more we can be our own authentic true selves, the more we can show other people that they can be their own authentic true selves and don't have to be somebody that they're not. So I think the more we can all be in our own alignment, the more everything else will fall into alignment. If that makes sense.
It does. I love that. Thank you. And lastly, beyond all the knowledge and experience you've gained, what still leaves you in awe or makes you question everything?
Honestly, when I do the emotion code, sometimes when I release things, I'm like, how does this even work? It's just wild. Some of the stuff that I find and the synchronicities and the specific. I had a trapped emotion released from me that was, and this is where it gets a little woo woo. And I remember when she first released it, I was like, I don't even know if I believe in this. What is this? It was a preconception trapped emotion. And this only happened, I think, once or twice. And she said this was from a past life. You were in a male's body. You felt like you had something. There was, I think it was, I'd be in the equivalent of a wheelchair at the time. So whatever at that age and time was in a wheelchair, and there was like something, but I think it was just this feeling of like always feeling like there's something wrong with you. And it landed so much for me with everything that I had going on, like, because it's when you have these abilities, or you have, you have these desires, and you're like, is there something wrong with me? Like, what is wrong with me? And when she released it, it was like, whoa, that was wild. And I didn't even know if I believed it. But it did something to me. And here I am launching a website that I'm a psychic medium and an emotion code practitioner. And this was well before I had done any of this. So yeah, I mean, I think just be open, because you never know what's going to fall into your lap, and be open to the timing of things, because, I could have never crafted the timing and the synchronicities that have happened into my life as beautifully as they panned out. I mean, same goes for my kids. Like, I was in the throes of infertility, gave up. I was basically told that I would have to go through IVF or vitro, and I didn't. I got these miracle children, and we had this horrendous loss, and like all of it, just the way that it played out so beautifully, I could have never crafted that up in my mind. Though at the time, it was like, this is never going to happen for me. And I remind myself of that every single day when I get stuck, when things aren't working out the way I thought they were going to be, or when they're not happening as fast as I want them to happen. And I just am trying to be open to the way things are supposed to land and supposed to fall into place, and that they will, because I can't, my little mind is not as big as what is out there for me or for any of us. So I hope that makes sense.
It does. It does. I love to hear these answers because they're beautiful.
I
Everything that,
love these questions. They're great.
yeah, they make you think, don't it? So,
Yeah, it does.
I guess lastly, I just ask if you just one more time let everybody know how they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just Jenna Tuttle, literally jennatuttle.com, Tuttle, and Jenna Tuttle Medium on Instagram. And my email is just jennatuttle.com. But, and yeah, and I have a store of my artwork too. So all of this energy and the channeling I put into art. So I have some art prints on there, which is fun too. And there's calendars there's not a lot of open time slots. So if there's not a time slot that is on there for you, I have a lot of balls going on around. So me an email and I can open up some slots or figure out a time that could work for an emotion code session, psychic medium session, or if you're interested in artwork. My whole idea was to put myself out there as me and what I have to offer, and see where it goes.
I love it. Thank you, Jenna, for your time, and for
Thank
everybody
you
that.
so much for having me, Cesar. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's wonderful. And, for everybody who's listening, if you're listening this far into this episode, it's because you're interested and you're at least considering something. You're thinking about it. If you're going through things that no one else is able to address or help resolve it, this episode might have been just meant for you. So good
I
luck.
also want to mention I have a discovery call. So if you want to just chat with me for 15 minutes, a half an hour to see if this is even something you want to do right for you, I just have a free discovery call, set up a time, and we can just chat. And I can be like, this is what I do. This is how it could help you. And, to make you feel more comfortable. So
Love it.
that's
Love it.
all. I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable.
I know you're so grounded. You're definitely more than what I expected, a medium or an emotion code healer would be. So I had a little bit of expectation, but yeah. So I definitely appreciate you. I feel
Let's
good.
normalize the woo. It's
Normalize
cool. Just a normal person.
like going to the store or going somewhere else and talking to other professionals. So, all right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in to another Beyond the Frequency episode, and we'll see you next time.